Hello everyone, welcome to free crash course on competitive exams held by Virat Hindustan Sangam in association with Manifest IAS Bengaluru. This program is inspired by Dr. Subramaniam Swamy and it was started in January. And it is convened by Sri Ravishankar Sir, State Education Convener for Karnataka and also President of Good Neighbors India NGO. So I am the Chief Mentor of your program, Dhanush Kumar. And you can watch this program online on the YouTube channel of Virat Hindustan Sangam. And also on the YouTube channel of Udaya News Karnataka. Every day it will be uploaded. So for further mentoring, any queries, any doubts, guidance for anything related to any competitive exams, you can join our Telegram channel. So I recommend everyone to join this VHS Education Forum. This is our Telegram channel. So here is the link, VHS space Education space Forum. So you have to join this Telegram channel. So we are done with polity and history. Now we are negotiating the economy section of the syllabus. So what to expect out of these classes? So how to make best use of it? Freshers can use this as a concept clearing class and veterans can use this as a revision class. Okay. So the source for your Indian economy, if you are studying in English, it is Sriram Srirangam. This is the best source for Indian economy. Okay. So yesterday we were speaking with taxation, speaking about taxation. Some concepts about taxation is left out. Okay, we will do that. So first is DDT. DDT, dividend distribution tax. Dividend. So what is dividend distribution tax? This companies are actually making profit in the share market. Their share price goes up. When their share price goes up, their dividend, that is their profit, will increase. So that profit is distributed among the shareholders. That profit is distributed among the shareholders. That tax imposed on that dividend, distribution of dividend, is called dividend distribution tax. That is the concept. Next, we have the concept of withholding tax. Withholding tax. So it means these companies withhold the income, that is the taxation. So if you are working for a corporate company, they will be cutting the TDS. So the tax imposed on that is called withholding tax, right? Next you have presumptive tax. Presumption. That what is presumptive tax? Suppose your income is not properly counted. That is, you have not maintained the proper records. Proper records is not maintained. So the government presumes that this much tax you owe to the government. So when the government presumes without any record that this is the percentage of tax you have to pay, that is presumptive tax. Next, wealth tax. Wealth tax, if your income is more than 1 crore or 2 crore, if you are a upper section of the society, upper class, then it is wealth tax. So actually earlier it was above 2 crore, wealth tax was imposed. Now wealth tax is removed and they are imposing the surcharge on the income. Next you have security transaction tax. Security transaction tax, if the transactions happen in the share market. So share market, shares are bought and sold, upon that tax is imposed, that is security transaction tax. Then similar to security transaction tax, in the stock exchange, if commodities are transacted, I have told you already what is commodities, sugar, all these things. If commodities are transacted, the tax imposed on that is called commodity transaction tax. Next, you have fringe benefit tax. Fringe benefits, it is actually, suppose you are working in a company, there are so many facilities available to you, gym facility, transport facility, so many things. Upon that, tax is imposed, that is fringe benefit tax, right? And next you have perquisites. Perquisites means similar to perks. Companies give you so many perks, right? Shares they are going to give you. If you are a part of a company, they are going to give some shares to you, and also they are going to give you some facilities like gym, transport, so many things, and goodies. Goodies andre free gifts, everything. Upon that tax is imposed, perks, that is, and also free travel, holidays and all those things. Upon that tax is imposed, that is perquisites. Next you have tax incidence. Tax incidence means what? You have to understand this concept with respect to the direct tax and indirect tax. See, direct tax, tax is incident on the consumer or citizen. I am paying the tax, tax is incident upon me. Yar mele tax ana yeralagta ide. Whereas indirect tax, tax is not incident upon me. Though I pay the tax, it is actually, I am not paying directly to the government. I am paying it to the manufacturer. Manufacturer in turn pays it to indirect tax. Suppose you pay a Parle-G biscuit, you are not paying tax to the government. You are paying it to the manufacturer, who in turn pays it to the government. So that is, in that case, tax incidence is not on me, on the manufacturer, right? Next, tax base. Tax base is the goods. Upon what all goods and services tax is imposed, that is tax base. Next, tax shelters. I told you, tax shelters, tax havens, tax paradise, where tax is very less. That is tax shelter. There is no tax or very minimum tax. That is why all these companies go to Mauritius, because it's a tax shelter. Next, tax planning. It is legal. You plan and take the benefits of tax exemptions or concessions. That is tax planning. That is, you are planning how to reduce the tax burden on you. It is actually legal. You are taking the legal concessions given by the government. That is tax planning. Next, you have the concept of avoidance. Tax avoidance is illegal. You avoid the tax by transferring the money somewhere else. So many things. Whatever you do, tax avoidance and evasion, both are similar concepts yet different. So in these things, it is illegal. Tax avoidance and tax evasion is illegal, right? So these two things are illegal. Evasion. So you evade the tax. Tax is being imposed on you, you are evading it. That is tax evasion. Next, hidden tax. What is hidden tax? I told you the other day, inflation is a hidden tax. Because this year some product is 100 rupees, next year it is 105 rupees. So the price has increased. Isn't it similar to taxing you? It is similar to taxing you. 5 rupees extra you are paying. So it is, though the government doesn't show that it is putting some tax on you, by the virtue of inflation itself, there is a hidden tax imposed on you, right? And also consumption tax. Consumption tax. If you buy something, luxury phones, houses, if you consume clothes and everything, so if you consume more, this tax will increase. Consumption, based on consumption, right? And also proportional tax. Proportional tax means, so it is based on income. Based on the income, the tax will get decided. So tax is proportional to income. Income increases, tax increases. Income decreases, tax decreases. Proportional tax. Next you have progressive tax. What is progressive tax? See, whatever the direct tax we have in India, it is a progressive tax. Means up to 5 lakh, no tax. 5 to 10 lakh, it is 10%. Later than up to 12.5, it is 15%, like that. So based on income, the tax gets increased. So that is, tax is progressing with the income. Tax is getting progressed with the income, that is progressive tax. Regressive tax, no matter what your income is, tax is similar. Tax doesn't change. That is indirect tax. It is regressive tax. It is poor for the bad. Next, specific duty. Specific duty means upon specific facilities. Upon specific facilities, if the duty is imposed on specific things, specific products, specific goods, duty, tax is imposed, that is specific duty. Then next you have the concept of ad valorem. Ad valorem means based on the value. Based on the value, tax is imposed, right? If, for example, you buy diamonds, diamond is high value, so tax is high. So you buy some clothes, clothes are low value, so tax will be low. Based on value of the goods, tax is imposed, that is ad valorem. Next, excise duty. I already told what is excise duty. Excise duty is manufacturing duty, manufacturing goods. Tax is imposed on manufacturing goods, that is excise duty, right? Manufacture of various products, industry, machines and so many things, computers, various things. So that is excise duty. Next you have customs duty. Customs duty, imports. The tax imposed on the importing of goods is called as customs duty. Next you have negative IT, negative income tax. What is negative income tax? So negative income tax means it is actually you are not paying the tax, you are getting the concessions. So instead of paying a tax, you are getting concessions, that is in negative income tax. There is no tax being paid by you, that is negative income tax. Next, tax buoyancy I have already told. With growth, tax base increases, that is tax buoyancy. Growth of the economy increases, tax increases. Tax base increases, that is tax buoyancy. Next, tax elasticity. Tax elasticity means tax is elastic. Tax is variable. That is for one product, tax is different and the other product tax is different. And for the same product, tax is different in different seasons. So tax is getting varied. So that is tax elasticity. Tax is expandable, right? So that is tax elasticity. Next, tax stability. When tax is not expandable, tax is not changing, then that concept is called tax stability, right? So these are the terms which we should know about the taxation. These are the various terms. Okay. Next we will move to banking in India. Banking in India. Banking system. Okay. So banks, what are banks? Banks are actually financial intermediaries, right? That is, see, you have money. You have money. Somebody else wants money for starting a business. You have excess money. So can that person come to you and take the money? No, that is mutual lending. Whereas banks acts as an intermediary. It connects you, the person who is depositing the money, and the person who wants the money. So it is connecting the depositor and the debtor. Sala ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋನ್ಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಣ ಹೂಡಿಕೆ ಮಾಡೋನ್ಗೆ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಡೋದೇ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್. Financial intermediary. It is a finance. This is the basic definition of a bank, right? So banks have assets and liabilities. Assets and liabilities. See, banks give loan to the public, loan to citizen. Those loans are actually assets. Bank asset alva adu. Banks own that loan. It is bank's loan, bank's money which is with the debtor. So it is the asset. Bank in asti adu. Asset means asti. Whereas liabilities andre, we deposit the money, savings bank, saving account, fixed deposit, all those things, we deposit the money. That money is a liability, right? Liability means banks are liable to pay to us. Banks namaga adu vapas kodbeku, whatever the money we have kept. So bank in a liability means honegarike. So bank should give that money back to us. So that is liability, right? Bank loans, assets and liabilities. What the bank gives is an asset, what the bank takes is a liability, right? This is the concept. So there are many types of banks in India, many types. So the first type is commercial bank. Commercial bank. What are the commercial banks? All the banks you are seeing around. All the banks which you are seeing around. Your State Bank of India, ICICI, HDFC. All those banks are called commercial banks, right? Commercial, it carries out the commercial activities. Commercial activities andre lending and also giving various products. Amale issuing checks, maintaining business accounts. So all those things are actually commercial activities, so they are called commercial banks. So then we have cooperative banks. Cooperative bank andre, see, these commercial banks work on profit. The interest which you are going to pay is the profit for them. Whereas cooperative bank, it works not on the principle of profit. It is no gain, no profit, no gain, no loss bank. Not for profit organization, cooperative bank. So it is based on a cooperative organization. People, general public, try to cooperate among themselves and establish this bank. It enhances the cooperation among the public when in respect of economic affairs. Economy, another vishayadalli cooperation untu madodu cooperative bank. So these banks, see, commercial banks are owned by either government or private, whereas cooperative banks are owned by the shareholders or the public members. The members own the cooperative banks. So illi cooperative banks actually you have current account. They have current account. They can issue demand deposits. What is demand deposits? I have told already. So the savings account and current account which you maintain is demand deposit. Time deposit is a fixed deposit. That comes after in a later date. So demand deposit na maintain madutte cooperative bank. Demand, when you go and demand the money, they should give you. That is your own money, savings money. So that can be done. Then also it maintains what? Current account and savings account. Current account and savings account both are maintained by the cooperative banks, right? Then we have land development bank. The next type of bank is land development bank, also called as state cooperative agriculture and rural development bank. So these are state banks. State within the states. These are actually national. Cooperative bank can be both national as well as state. Whereas state development banks, this land development banks are actually state banks. So illi state cooperative agriculture and rural development bank. This is the state level bank or land development bank. Then what does this land development bank do? They lend long term. Agriculture ke matte rural development ke this land development bank is going to give long term money. What is long term, short term? This commercial banks give loan for short term. Andre 5 to 10 years aste or loan kodala, adra mele loan kodala. Yaru commercial banks, cooperative banks agirbodu. Whereas land development bank give money for long term, 20 years, 25 years. So that is the difference, right? Then you have investment bank. Investment banks also called as merchant banks. So what do? They carry out investment in various activities, various sectors, infrastructure, electricity, renewable energy. So in various sectors they are going to invest. That is why it is called investment bank. Then you have development bank. So which carries out the development activities. Development bank and development activities. Infrastructure development, economic development, social development, health development, education development. All these developments are done by this. Investment is done by development bank. You have, suppose you have one example, SIDBI, Industrial Development Bank of India. SIDBI, Industrial Development. So it carries out the development with respect to industries, SIDBI, right? Then you have Mudra Bank. Mudra Bank, Microfinance Development and Regulatory Authority, Mudra Bank, right? Micro Unit Development and Regulatory Authority, Mudra Bank. Well, that is, it gives money to the microfinancial institutions. Microfinancial institutions andre, which gives money to self-help groups. Stree Shakti Sangatane. Alligalalirutte. So to that self-help groups, small organizations in the villages, cooperative organizations, this Mudra Bank is going to give money, right? Then you have National Housing Bank. National Housing Bank, funding with respect to housing projects, big housing projects. Then you have Cooperative Societies Act. I told you. Cooperative societies. So cooperative banks na, how do you if you want to form a cooperative bank, how do you form it? Cooperative bank. So it is formed based on this act, Cooperative Societies Act. Cooperative banks are, so you have urban cooperative bank, rural cooperative bank, multi-state cooperative bank. So many cooperative banks are there. So those cooperative banks are formed based on Cooperative Societies Act. Based on this act only you can set up the cooperative. Then who are the owners of cooperative bank? I told you. Members of the owners. Members are the owners. So cooperative bank ali there is one more concept. One member, one vote. Every year there will be annual general body meeting, and every 5 years there will be election to the board members in the cooperative banks, right? So it is actually who regulates it? It is regulated by the RBI under Banking Regulation Act 1949. Majorly banking related idu. But with respect to election, all those things, it is in Karnataka, it is managed by Apex Bank. Apex Cooperative Bank in Karnataka. So with respect to multi-state banks, andre Karnataka cooperative banks na Apex will manage. With respect to national banks, multi-state banks, it is managed by one act called Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act. Adru prakara some organization will be there which is going to manage. Owners, I told you, it is the members who are the owners. So the principle is one member, one vote principle, right? Okay. Then commercial banks. Coming to commercial banks, there are scheduled banks and also non-scheduled banks. Scheduled banks and non-scheduled banks. So what is a scheduled bank? Scheduled bank which is set up according to the schedule of RBI Act. Second schedule of RBI Act. If the bank is set up based on the second schedule of RBI Act, RBI Act yavag pass ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? It is passed in 1934. If a bank is set up based on the second schedule of RBI Act, then it is called a scheduled bank. So scheduled bank, what should be the condition andre? There should be minimum capital. Ishtu capital anta irutte. Schedule bank idre, the conditions are more. The RBI will tell you a condition saying that there must be this much capital in the bank, right? So that is the concept of scheduled bank. And also scheduled banks always keep interest of the depositors in mind. Depositors ಏನು ದುಡ್ಡಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅದರ interest is the that is the interest of scheduled banks. Scheduled banks actually there are two types. Commercial scheduled banks there are two types. One is public sector bank, other is private sector bank. Public sector, your SBI, Canara Bank, all those things. Private sector, ICICI, HDFC, all these banks, right? Okay. Depositor interest is the goal of the scheduled bank, and also these banks have lot of privileges. What privileges? Scheduled bank ali? They can have direct access to RBI. Scheduled bank, any problem happens to the scheduled bank, they can go directly to the RBI. I told you, RBI is the lender of last resort. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಹಣದ ಅಭಾವ ಬೀಳಲಿ, liquidity is not there, and bank is facing so many problems, these scheduled banks can directly go to the RBI. So that is the privilege of scheduled bank. Then coming to non-scheduled banks andre, which is set up not according to the RBI Act. So there are only 9 non-scheduled banks. All of them are local area banks. Local area banks are non-scheduled banks, right? Okay. So there are only 9. PSB, public sector banks, they actually 21 public sector banks. So in 2017, the 6 associated members, State Bank of Mysore, State Bank of Travancore, Bikaner, Jaipur, all these banks were merged into State Bank of India, right? In 2017. Also in 2019, 10 public sector banks were merged into 4. So Canara Bank, Syndicate Bank, Corporation Banks, and Punjab National Bank. Yes, all these banks were merged into 4 entities. So that is the merger which is taking place. We will talk about merger. Okay. So this is the concept about commercial banks, scheduled bank, non-scheduled bank, cooperative bank. Clear? Okay. Next you have State Bank of India. State Bank of India. So this was set up in 19th century. Some 1800 date is there. 19th century. It begins as Bank of Calcutta. Initially it starts functioning as a name. Initial bank is Bank of Calcutta. Later on Bengal Bank anta agutte. Later on it becomes Imperial Bank of India. Imperial Bank of India. State Bank of India. ಆಮೇಲೆ 1955 ಅಲ್ಲಿ it is nationalized. Nationalized ಅಂದ್ರೇನು? Until then it was under private control, Imperial Bank of India. 1955 ಅಲ್ಲಿ State Bank of India was taken into government control. That is the meaning of nationalization, right? Then there are 7 regional banks. I told you, State Bank of Mysore, Travancore, Bikaner, Baroda, all those banks. So all those banks were merged in 2017. So this State Bank of India functioning, it's a statutory act. I told you statutory means law. So it has a law backing, that is the SBI Act of 1955. There is State Bank of India Act 1955, according to which State Bank of India functions. So these are the facts. Then now merger has taken place. Merger has taken place, there is only one bank. State Bank. So my question is, why should we merge the banks? See, the thing is, there are lot of repetition of work. State Bank of India also does the same thing. State Bank of Mysore also does the same thing. Same, see these, elladukunu parent bank is State Bank of India. So suppose in Chandra layout, earlier there were 2, State Bank of Mysore was also there, State Bank of India also there. The both were side by side. So it was actually nearby. Both were side by side. So rent is too much rent on the bank, too much expenditure, infrastructure cost, electricity cost, labor cost, so many unnecessary these things. So what happens when you merge the banks, it will become a very big bank. So State Bank of India assets will also go to State Bank of Mysore asset will become State Bank of India's asset. So the bank capacity will rise. Bank's capital will rise. When the bank's capital rises, it will become one of the biggest banks in the world. So the valuation of State Bank of India is lakhs of crores. When you merge this State Bank of Mysore, all these banks, its valuation increased and it became one of the top 10 banks in the world. Because of market capitalization, that term is called market capitalization. Indian market ali, how much is the leverage of State Bank of India? Or how many people, how many companies maintain their accounts in State Bank of India is called the market capitalization. So after merger, the market capitalization of SBI increased, right? So this is the concept of merger, why merger should take place. We will discuss about merger much in detail later on. Next, bank nationalization. Bank nationalization. See, this was carried out in 1969 by Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi. So 14 private banks were nationalized. Private bank na nationalize maadudta. It will be taken over by government. 14 banks na. And also 1918 ali she takes some 7 more banks. 7 more banks she will nationalize. 7 or 6. So 6 ala, it is 6. So earlier it was 14 and 6 banks in 1980. They were nationalized in 2 phases, right? So along with that, what is the objective of nationalization? See, 1969 ge 2015 ge the nationalization 50 years, Suvarna Mahotsav. So there was much anticipation of a question about bank nationalization. So bank nationalization, what is the objective? Private control. Private control. See, earlier the banks were under private control. Private control idaga actually they were profit oriented. They did not care about the poor sections of the population. They did not care about the expansion of industry. They did not care about the development of the country. All they cared about was self-interest. So what they did, once you nationalize ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ, it is taken under government control. When government control is taken, so also there were, what happens, rural areas alala branches irliಲ್ಲ, because rural area there is no profit. When there is no profit, why would you keep the bank there? So because of all these reasons, the nationalization took place. After nationalization, even though there is no profit, banks are bound to open branches in the rural areas, right? And also, why nationalization is a socio-economic planning. Socio-economic planning. So we were following the planning pattern since 1951. So plan ge actually the government needed money. Government needed money. So these private banks were not giving the money for planned purposes. Planned purposes, there was no investment from private banks. And also these private banks were not investing in social sector, education, health, alala invest ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. And also not in expansion of economy. So that is the reason nationalization was took place. And also extension, that is extension means rural areas there were no branches. To expand the rural reach, this nationalization took place. And also to increase the savings. See, I told you, India, there is lot of savings, highest savings in the world, highest saving rate in the world. It is almost 32% saving. If you earn 100 rupees, Indian saves 32 rupees. So these savings actually were kept in the lockers of individual homes. So, but when the banks were nationalized, these savings were kept in the bank. So when you keep the money in the bank, it can be used for something useful purpose, right? So that is why banks were nationalized. Savings were increased. Your Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So before that, actually, the banking was very less. The villagers didn't have bank account. So suddenly, everybody got a bank account by PMJDY. So what happened? Immediately, there was huge increase in savings. So lakhs of crore rupees get saved in the Jan Dhan Yojana, Jan Dhan bank accounts. So savings get increased. Then, see, this private sector did not invest in priority sector. What is a priority sector? Priority sector are those sectors where the government plans to invest and grow the sector. Yavadu agriculture, education, yes, micro MSME industry, MSME industries, yes, and also what else? Infrastructure, rural infrastructure, backward classes, women empowerment. Idru melella, if the government invests, so private banks were not investing in these sectors. So they nationalized the bank, and what they did, they made 40% you have to compulsory invest in priority sector. Today 40%. If the bank has 100 rupees asset, they have to invest 40 rupees in private sector, priority sector. I told you what are the priority sectors. Next, mass banking. See, private banks, they did not focus on mass banking and public banking. They focused on only few rich people. So, because of nationalization, every person, every poor person, every low caste person is able to open a bank account, mass banking. So, these are the benefits or the reasons for bank nationalization, right? So, this is the concept of nationalization. Next, 50 years has took place since nationalization. What are the positives? So, positives are the mass banking has taken place. Everybody has a bank account today, right? And also, poor people, there is lending. So earlier there was no lending for poor persons. Now poor people, money is being given to them. For example, your Stand Up India and also your this scheme, what? PM Swanidhi for street vendors. Bidi Badiya Vyaparigalige PM Swanidhi money is being given. Mudra loans are given. So poor lending is taking place. Then unbanked areas, even the remotest of the place, bank accounts are there. There is one place, I think it is somewhere in northeast or Jammu and Kashmir, I am not sure, where State Bank of India, a branch moves on a boat. Branch is on a boat. Kashmir. Huh? So it is there. So it means what? Everybody should have access to the bank, whether on boat, whether on land. Right? So that example you can quote. So the reach has increased. Unbanked areas, even the tribal areas, there is reach of bank. Next, reduce inequality. Yes, inequality has reduced. How inequality has reduced? Everybody has a bank account. Government schemes idiyalla, Manrega, PM Ujjwala Yojana, amele pensions, various pensions, everything is directed to the through the bank account. So via when you direct the money, and also your direct benefit transfer, PDS, DBT, direct benefit transfer, their money is being transferred directly to the people. So it has reduced inequality even during your Atmanirbhar Bharat. So every woman got, poor woman got 500 rupees, old people got 1000 rupees. So it is a move towards reducing inequality, right? And also rural urban gaps. Earlier the banks were concentrated only in rural areas, I mean urban areas. Now the gap has reduced. Now even rural areas have bank account, right? So this is the concept of bank nationalization. Goals, similar goals. Similar goals in order to reduce inequality, reduce poverty, increase the expansion of bank reach, yeah, increase the habit of banking, and also bank accounts jasti adre government will have resources. Those savings can be utilized by the government. Fiscal deficit will reduce. Borrowing can be done directly from the banks, right? And also banking jasti adre employment will also increase. Bank nationalize adre, expansion adre, government will hire more people for operating the bank. So all those are the benefits. Goals andre similar. To increase the banking, all those are the goals of nationalization. Next, what are the problems? Problems of bank nationalization. Problems say no, or with respect to, I am talking about whole banking sector. What are the problems in our banking sector? So what are the problems in banking sector? One is non-performing assets. Lakhs of crores these public sector banks have lost. Vijay Mallya, Mehul Choksky, they have given so much money, they are not able to recover. Non-performing assets is one problem. Then you go to public sector banks, have you observed the attitude of the bank people? It is very rude towards the people, public. That is also one problem, right? And also there is corruption in the bank. There is a lot of corruption in giving loans, right? Corruption is there. And also the opening of bank account is difficult. Bank account difficult. Stringent rules and regulations are high, right? So there are so many problems with respect to the public sector banks or commercial banks today, right? And also they are not investing in priority sectors properly, and also they are not giving proper investment in infrastructure. The investment is not in tune with the economic growth. So there are so many problems which has to be addressed. So what are the solutions? Solutions andre, one is we have to increase the private banks in order to complement, not to substitute. Public sector banks jotege complement agi, we have to increase the private banks in India, right? So that is one thing. Then FDI in banking can be increased. What is the FDI percentage? So public sector banks only FDI is 20%. Public sector banks only. Whereas in private sector bank, FDI is 75%. 75% private only FDI. But 49% is via automatic route. Rest 26% is via government approval route. What is automatic route? What is government approval route? So foreign direct investment comes to India. FDI comes to India. 49 private bank I told 49% is automatic route. And without government permission, the foreign investor can invest 49% in the banks, in banks, private sector banks, but rest 26, 49 ಮೇಲೆ up to 75% ಅಂದ್ರೆ he has to take government approval. So this is the government approval route, right? Okay. Next solution, no? Next solution is bank consolidation. Consolidate the banks, merge the banks. Merge the banks in order to make it a big bank, right? Bank consolidation is one solution. And also technology upgrade the technology, right? Technology. So bank ali to make available digital banking, fintech, financial technology, digital banking you increase. So NEFT, UPI, BIM app, RTGS. So you increase the technology in the banks. That is also solution, right? Next you have banking sector reforms 1991. So what is the year 1991? LPG. Post liberalization. What are the reforms that have taken place in the banking sector? Post 1991, what are the reforms? Okay. So the reforms is, one is profitability. The profitability of the banks have increased post 1991. 1991 admele, see, there is lot of investment, foreign investment has increased, private investment has increased. Private investment, foreign investment has increased. So when investment comes, automatically banks profitability will increase, right? So that is one thing. Then SLR has reduced. SLR and CRR are reduced. So SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. CRR, cash reserve ratio. Andre earlier the SLR was up to 40%. CRR was above 20%. Andre 100 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ದುಡ್ಡಿದ್ರೆ 40 ರೂಪಾಯಿ 40% you should be in the form of SLR. They have to deposit in RBI. 20% of cash they have to deposit in RBI. Today the SLR is around 15% and CRR is 4%. So rest of the capital is available for banks for lending, right? That is one thing. Then credit discipline. So earlier there was no discipline in the credit. Andre sala kodbekadre, if the private public sector banks had to give money, they had to give money to the loan, they have to give loans. There was no proper discipline. There was lot of corruption. Documents were not checked properly. So post liberalization, because of various checks and balances, RBI regulation, high regulation, credit discipline has increased in the banking sector. So credit discipline andre verifying the debtor properly before giving the loan. Credit discipline has increased. But yes, non-performing assets nodidre we can question how, where is their credit discipline anta. But compared to pre-1991, credit discipline has definitely increased, right? So along with that, competition has increased. Alva. We have for post 1991, all these foreign banks, HSBC, Citibank, JP Morgan, all these banks came to India, right? So Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, all these foreign banks came to India, American Bank, all these banks. So there is competition in the banking sector. Post 1991, there is high competition in the banking sector. Next, earlier there was populist schemes. Populist schemes andre, in order to win election, they have to give lot of subsidy. Ivaga election time alli they waive off the agricultural loan alla. Krushi sala manna. Every government comes, they are going to do it. So it is a populist scheme. Populist scheme andre, it is not good economically, but in order to gain public support for election purpose, populist. So populism was earlier high in the banks before 1991. Banks were used as a tool for the public, for the political parties' populist interest. Populist interest. But now there is no populist interest. It is only economic interest. There is only economic interest in the banks. Right? Okay. So, next you have the banking sector reforms. 1991, what are the reforms that took place? 1991. So, first is interest rate deregulation. Interest rate deregulation. What is interest rate deregulation? So, earlier, interest rate was mandated by the government. Whatever the interest rate you have to give, they were mandated by the RBI. RBI used to say this much interest rate only you have to give the money. But now interest rate are deregulated. Banks can set their own interest rate. Right? It is a good measure because banks are the best one to decide. They can decide what is the interest rate that is good for them. Right? So that is one thing. Then voluntary retirement scheme. Bank only there were so many employees who were not good. Right? So all of them were given VRS post 1991. Next you have SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. I told you SLR was reduced. SLR was reduced. Next, level playing field. SLR reduced adre enagutte, what will happen? The banks will have more money to lend to the public, right? That is one thing. Then level playing field. Level playing field andre earlier public sector banks had unequal importance. Unequal importance andre they were given too much prominence. So whatever the rates, whatever the loans, actually private sector did not have proper participation. Private banks were discriminated. So post 1991, between the public sector banks and private sector banks, there was level playing field. Both were treated equally. Right? That is one thing. Next, Basel norms. Basel norms. I am going to discuss what is Basel norms. Basel norms were accepted. So Basel norms andre, it is basically good lending practices to reduce the risk. Bank the risk iruttala, lending risk. To reduce that risk, Basel norms are followed. Basel norms are followed. Right? So that is one thing. Next, post 1991, FDI got increased. Foreign direct investment was increased post 1991. Right? Next, you have bank consolidation. Bank consolidation. I told you, merger of the banks. Merger of the banks took place. Then also recapitalization post 1991. What is recapitalization post 1991? See, these banks used to give money to the industries, various ineligible people who are not eligible to take loan. They used to give money. They used to lose the money. So banks were low on capital. There was no capital with the banks. So they recapitalized to pump in more money where the public sector banks lose the capital. Government pumps in more money. That is recapitalization. So recapitalization we have Indradhanush scheme 2015. 2015 Indradhanush scheme is the recapitalization, right? So what are the objectives? Objectives of 1991 reforms. 1991 reform aito, what is the objective? One, to make banking options profitable. Earlier, banks were operating, not for profit. Post 1991, only banking operations were decided to be profitable, to yield profit to the banks. So more profit to the banks, more lending, more expansion, more quality, right? And also objectives, socio-economic challenges. Via this post 1991, whatever the challenges were there, internal challenge, external challenge. Internal challenge andrenu, bank alli there was lot of problems internally. Credit was not given properly. There was no proper documentation. There was no proper lending practice. All of them were changed post 1991. And also external challenges. No infrastructure, no investment. Social sector, no investment. Economic sector, education sector, there was no investment. Allala challenges na they tackled post 1991, right? That is the objective. Next, banking operations were made safe. Post 1991, banking operations got safe. There was no fraud in the banking operations. People did not lose the money unnecessarily. Then, customer orientedness. Previous, they did not care for the customer. You come, you sit, we are not going to change. We will just receive our salary and go home. This was the attitude of banking employees. Even today, unfortunately, that is there, continuing. But customer, now customer is the focus of the banking sector. You want to open an account in private sector bank, they will come to your home. So customer orientedness is there. Then capital has increased. Capital, andre Bandwala, before this 1991, the bank capital was very less. Very less. Now, post 1991, the capital has increased. Capital increase, what are the benefits? See, suppose bank has 1000 rupees or 100 rupees capital. So, 100 rupees capital, it gives a loan of 20 rupees. This 20 rupees, that person will not return. It becomes a non-performing asset. So, 80 rupees, with 80 rupees he has to run the bank now. So let us take the capital is 1000 rupees. Again this person is giving 20%, 20 rupees loan. Which is the comparatively high loss? This is right, 100 rupees ಅಲ್ಲಿ 20 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಹೋಗೋದು, it is high loss. Whereas 1000 ಅಲ್ಲಿ 20 ಹೋದ್ರೆ, when the capital is high, there is no much effect. So capital was increased post 1991 and also the banking operations were made inclusive. Inclusive andre rural people were included. Inclusiveness ke you just take the example of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Banks accounts were open for rural, urban, rural people, poor people, old people, young people, everybody. The disabled people, low caste, higher caste, tribal, everybody. So banking operations became inclusive, all encompassing, right? So these were the changes. Next, Narasimham committee. So there is a banking committee bandaga. The committee names are important. Narasimham committee 1 and 2. There are 2 committees. Narasimham. First committee comes in 1991. Second committee comes in 1998. Narasimham committee. Right? So what is this Narasimham committee? What does it say? 1991 Bandhatai committee. What does it say? This committee says that there is no further nationalization. Nationalization agala inna. Whatever nationalization that took place in 1969 and 1980. That is the end. No further nationalization, right? That is first thing. Second, it says level playing field. Andre private sector, public sector banks, foreign banks, Indian banks, there should be level playing field. Ellaranu samanavagi nodabeku. All should be treated equal. That is the second recommendation of the Narasimham committee. And also it says Indian banks should grow up to global level. They should become global banks. They should be not confined to only to India. They should become global banks. Anta this committee says. Then it says SLR and CRR should be reduced. SLR and CRR. Statutory liquidity ratio, cash reserve ratio should be reduced. Then it says target priority sector lending. Lending should be given for priority sectors. That it says. And also it says non-performing asset should be bought down. Andre waste money or waste lending, where the money is not returned to the bank, that should be bought down. That is what this committee says. And also it says prudential norms should be followed. What is prudential norms? Prudent andre, so in prudent, the word prudent in English means wise, buddhivantike. So bank should follow wise norms. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಈಗ 2008 ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಕ್ರೈಸಿಸ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ US ಅಲ್ಲಿ. So it was because of subprime lending. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ineligible people were given loans. So those people did not, as expected, did not give the money back to the banks. So we have to follow prudential norm. If we are giving loan to some person, we have to assess his credit worthiness, whether he is eligible to take loan. That credit worthiness should be assessed. That is prudential norm should be followed. Then deregulate interest rate. Andre earlier interest rate was managed by RBI. Now it is deregulated. Banks can set their own rate subject to that base rate anta irutte. Base rate RBI kotbidutte. Above base rate they can set any rate. So deregulates where deregulation of interest rate. Then it says bring in asset reconstruction companies. Asset reconstruction. I told you non-performing assets. Andre, see, you own a company. You take 100 crore loan. And you fail to repay. So according to Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, IBC Code 2016, I am going to discuss what is this code. IBC code, this property will be taken over by you, taken over by the bank. Avaren martare, they will give you that asset to the asset reconstruction company. This was also under SARFAESI Act. SARFAESI Act anta barute 2002 alli. There was a provision of asset reconstruction company even under SARFAESI Act. So this asset reconstruction company, what does it do? It is going to take up your company. It takes it up. And it ensures that that company will become profitable. It will do so many activities. Management change madutte. It is going to change the production ideas. So many things. Fresh talent will be induced. Fresh processes will be installed in the company, and it is going to ensure that the company becomes profitable. So that is the concept of asset reconstruction company given under IBC and also under SARFAESI Act. So, has there been any implementation of the Narasimham committee? There are many implementations. Yavdu SLR and CRR reduce agide. Bank nationalization have been stopped. Level playing field has been given. SBI is now a global bank. Target PSL, yes. NPA has been done. Prudential norms, yes. Basel 3 we have signed. The interest rate have been regulated. ARC has been done. So all these things are implemented now, right? Committee recommendations have been implemented. Next, bank loans, standard, substandard assets. Standard assets andrenu. Standard assets andre those assets which are repaying promptly. Interest plus principal. Principal andrenu aslu. Plus interest, ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಎರಡನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, that is a standard asset bank loan ಅಲ್ಲಿ. If that is not being paid, either interest or the principal is not being paid, that is substandard asset, right? Or also called loss making asset. We will discuss what is this standard asset and substandard asset. So substandard assets are also called as non-performing assets. So what is the criteria? What is the criteria to be called a substandard asset? Yeah. So to be called a substandard asset, neither interest nor principal. Idrinda interest ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, principal ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. That is first condition. Next, substandard. See, these conditions are important. It is going to be asked in your exam directly. See, up to 90 days. See, today you have to pay the loan. Today is the last day. You fail to pay. So from today, 90 days, you are not paying any principal or interest, then it will be called as a special mention account. Special mention account, SPA. Up to 90 days, if an asset remains non-performing asset, it is called a special mention account. Right? From 90 days up to next 12 months. 90 days in the next 12 months. If the asset remains substandard, then if the asset remains non-performing asset, then it is called a substandard asset. Special mention account, substandard asset. These terminologies are important, right? So, illi provisioning ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. So, illi up to 90 days there is no provisioning. So, what is provisioning? Provisioning means simple. See, you have taken 10 crore loan and you have failed to repay both interest and principal. So, when it becomes SMA, there is no provisioning. When it becomes SSA, substandard asset, there is provisioning. Provisioning andre no, bank the total capital iruttalla. Out of bank's total capital, some percentage of the money will be set aside. Because bank own capital alle, some percentage of capital will be set aside. Tagdi bere kade itpidtare. Why? Because if you fail to repay the loan, it has to be reimbursed by bank's capital. So they are going to provision store. When you go to provision store, all your tur dal, urad dal, all things will be measured, improperly weighed and given to you, right? Likewise, bank will also weigh. It is going to tuka madi, some amount will be kept aside. If you are not paying the money, that is provisioning. So illi aston provisioning iralla. So illi it will be around 25% aste. Secured and unsecured anta irutte, not very important, right? 25% provisioning irutte andre 25%. If you have taken 10 crore rupees, 2.5 crore will be set aside. Andre bank tagdit bidutte sa known capital inda. Then more than 12 months in the next 12 months, if it remains a non-performing asset, no interest, no capital, no interest, no principal, then it is called doubtful asset 1. It is named as doubtful asset 1. So, avaga provisioning will increase. Is to up to 50% agutte. The numbers are not very important. They are not going to ask. So, from it is actually 20%, some 40% is like that. I am just giving a brief idea. So, the provisioning will increase to 50%. Andre 10 crore ali 5 crore will be kept aside by the bank. So, 12 more months if you are not paying. Illi provisioning, it is based on unsecured asset, secured asset. It will confuse you, don't worry. Next, it will come 12 more months after the DA1. DA1 nagi 12 more months adre, it is called DA2, doubtful asset 2. Illi provisioning will be even more. So, let us take 75%. 7 ಕೋಟಿ ಎತ್ತಿಟ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ 3 years ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಫಿನಿಶ್ ಮಾಡಿ 3 years ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ then it will called as DA3. Then the bank has to set aside full 100%. 10 crore they have to set aside. So this is called DA3. Allu provisioning ide. Next you have the concept of fraud accounts. See, this is proper account. Legal account idre ee tara. Fraud account, what do you mean by fraud account? Suppose you are taking home loan. You have, instead of original documents, you have given color xerox to the bank and you have defrauded the bank. Nimde property alla, you have taken the loan. You have made fake documents and taken the loan. It is a fraud, right? Fraud account adaga immediately they will do 100%. No classification. Immediately 100% provisioning will be done. Provisioning, did you understand? Yes. Okay. Next, you have, this is the concept of substandard assets, stressed assets. Stressed assets. See, these stressed assets are actually standard assets. Stressed assets are standard assets. They are paying the loan. But that person is facing some difficulty. Best example is COVID. Everybody who are giving proper principal and capital interest, they face lot of stress because of COVID. So all the standard assets became a stressed asset. Clear? Stressed asset and standard asset is there. Otherwise, due to some reason, it will become a stressed asset. Right? So then what the banks do, see, this person is a good person, he is giving the interest and loan properly, but due to some external reasons, what they do, they are going to restructure the account. What is meant by restructuring? They are going to reduce the interest rate. 9% ke baddi, if you 9% interest you have taken, they will reduce the interest rate to 7%. Or if you have to pay, let us say 7 crore, they will ask you, we will give off 50 lakhs, you pay just 6 lakh 50 crore. 50 lakh bit purtare. Restructuring. And also one more thing is, restructuring alli, see, COVID alli, there was no capital, bandwala irlilla. There was no capital. They are going to pump in no more money in order to make the business profitable. Right? So these are the concept of stressed assets. How the asset becomes stressed and what should be done. Restructuring. Clear? Okay. Next, PSB, public sector banks. When it comes to public sector banks, today, non-performing assets is more than 7.5 lakh crore. Approximately 8 lakh crore money is non-performing asset. 8 lakh crore. Out of 8 lakh crore, 90% of the money is given by public sector banks. 8 lakh crore 90 and estaito. 7 lakh 20,000 crore non-performing assets with public sector banks. Whose money? Our money. Taxpayers' money. Our savings money given to Malya and Chokski, they ran away. Mehul Chokski. Yes? Okay. Next, why stressed assets? Why? What is the reason behind stressed assets? One is bad lending. Eligible iralla. For that person, they are going to give loans. Bad lending. Next, slow down, economy slowdown. Andre company slows down due to COVID or some other reasons. Then also assets will become stressed or substandard. And also next, discoms. Discoms andre power companies, Bescom, KPTCL, all these are called discoms. These discoms are running on debt. Sikkhabate sala madidave discoms, Bescom, KPTCL, everybody. Why? There is no profit in electric business. Whatever the electricity they are supplying to us, it is actually loss making to them. They are not making any profit. Sikkhabate sala madidare. So because of that, there is increase in the debt in the market. Lakhs of crores. Lakhs of crores. Yes. Next, steel industry. Steel industry has also taken lot of money. Steel industry. There also there is lot of loss making to the banks. They have not returned. Next, infrastructure. Infrastructurally, they have invested lot of money and that money is not got back. That is also loss making. Right? And also crony capitalism. What is crony capitalism? What is crony capitalism? So, okay. Crony capitalism means capitalist. What do you mean by a capitalist? Who is a capitalist? Rich people. Who invest? Rich persons. Crony capitalism andre rich people and bureaucracy. Bureaucracy andre government. Ivribru friends agbidtare. Rich people and bureaucracy. That is what is happening alla. This concept is called crony capitalism. Bureaucracy will help the capitalist. Capitalist will help the bureaucracy. So bureaucracy andre bank managers, all of them become are civil servants only. They are serving the public. So what they do? They are friends of capitalists. 100 crore loan they will give to the capitalist, he will give to the bank manager some 1 crore commission. Crony capitalism. That is also responsible. Corruption, right? So these are the reasons for substandard or stressed assets. Next, what is the effect of that? What is the effect? One is, because of substandard assets, profit of the bank reduces. Alva. The bank's profit will reduce. That is one thing. The second thing is, capital gets locked. You give money to some ineligible person, that capital is locked. You cannot use it for any beneficial purpose, right? That is one thing. Next, stock price. Stock price of the banks will reduce. Obviously, right? When the bank gives loan to bad people, it comes in newspaper. Suddenly what? The confidence of people in the banking sector will reduce. They are going to take the money back. Stocks price of the banks reduce. Yes? And also the effect is, it increases the corruption in the market. Corruption will be there. And also there is no proper, andre, if you give loan to some ineligible people, eligible people won't be able to avail loan. Infrastructure ke capital barala. When the government needs capital, there is no capital. Government ke dur sigala. So all these reasons, all these are the effects of bad lending practices, that is substandard assets, right? Okay. Next, measures. What are the measures we have taken to solve it? One is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, and also SARFAESI Act. SARFAESI Act 2002. I am going to discuss these acts in detail. And also Basel 3 norms. I am going to discuss this also in detail. Basel 3 norms. Asset reconstruction companies. Write-off. What do you mean by write-off? Write-down, haircut, I will discuss. Write-off andre, the person has to give loan, this bank will give maafi, don't give. That is write-off, writing off from the books. Write-off, recapitalization, they will lose all the money by giving the capital to this cheat, ineligible people. Again, government will put the capital in them. That is recapitalization of banks. Then also debt recovery tribunal, Sala Usulati Tribunal, debt recovery tribunal is also there. These are the measures. These are the measures. And also foreclosure. Foreclosure andre, closing the account, closing the loan account before it is bound to close. And suppose after 5 years they have to pay the loan and stop the, now they have given the loan, 5 years period is there. So suddenly they will become non-performance asset, they cannot pay the loan. So avaga foreclosure, they are going to close the loan immediately, and whatever comes they are going to take. That is foreclosure is one thing. And also securitization. Securitization andre no. See, you own a company, you own some industry. You do not pay the loan to the bank, whatever you have taken. Again, your industry will be taken over by bank. They are going to Arajakala. What they do? They are going to convert it into security. If your industry value is 100 crore, they are going to issue shares. They are going to convert it into shares. Shares madi security na Arajaktare. Property Arajakala. Security will be auctioned. Right? Securitization is also there. Next, SARFAESI Act 2002. SARFAESI Act 2002, very important act. See, under this act, actually, what happens earlier, you take the money from bank. You take the money from bank and you don't repay. Right? When you don't repay, if the banks have to recover your loan, they have to first go to court. Take court's permission, warrant. Then they have to come and evict you from property. After SARFAESI Act came, there is no court. Directly banks can come and throw you out of your property. SARFAESI Act 2002, that is one thing. So, idralli, Obviously, power of the banks increased, right? Banks can directly take action instead of waiting for court order. Power of the banks increased. Next, they can auction the property. They can either directly auction or they can convert it into security. SARFAESI ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಾ? Securitization and reconstruction of financial asset and establishment of Security Interest Act. Very big definition. That is why it's simply told SARFAESI. So they can auction your property or they can issue securities on behalf of your property. That can be done, and also they can form asset reconstruction company. I told you already what is asset reconstruction company, right? All these things can be done under SARFAESI Act. Now I am talking about asset reconstruction company, some points. So asset reconstruction company. So if you want to start asset reconstruction company, you have to get RBI license. RBI license. What is this asset reconstruction company? See, you own a company, you don't repay to the bank. So the bank, what will they do? They will take over your property and give it to some ARC. So ARC they are going to give the money to bank. In turn, what they do? They are going to manage your business. They are going to make profit out of your business. That is asset reconstruction company. That is reviving your company. Revive andre jeeva hogiro company they are going to put life again. Reviving the company, right? So next, it is recommended by Narasimham committee. Asset reconstruction company is recommended by Narasimham committee, and also they buy the non-performing assets. Asset reconstruction company, what do? They buy these non-performing assets from where? From the banks. Banks only non-performing assets irutte, adana these companies are going to buy. What are the benefits? Benefits eno? It is going to take the loan out of the bank account. Bank books only loan iruttalla, that is taken out of the bank books. So bank profitability increases, right? And also it is going to instill credit discipline. Credit discipline andre, obviously when your property is taken over by someone, you will fear it, right? You are going to pay the money promptly. So that is one thing, paying of money promptly. Then also your company will be revived. Loss making company will be becoming profit making company. So there are so many benefits. So asset reconstruction company, if you want to start an asset reconstruction company, you can start by taking RBI license, and also there is provision of FDI. Foreign direct investment can be put to start asset reconstruction company in India, right? Next, what are the functions of this asset reconstruction company? Acquisition of property. Sala kodero property na they are going to acquire from the banks. That is the first function. Next, management. They are going to bring in new management. Whatever the old management iruttalla, sala tagondiruttalla, they are going to throw them out and bring in new management, right? That is the second thing. Then they are going to do the debt rescheduling. See, in order to make the company profitable, earlier what they had to pay? They had to pay in 5 years. The asset reconstruction company will reschedule. Reschedule is no, I cannot pay in 5 years because my company, the company which I have bought from you is at loss. So I am going to reschedule the debt for 10 years. So that is debt rescheduling will be done, and also settling of dues. That company banking ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸುಮಾರು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಮೋಸ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. They would have been in loss. So they are going to settle the dues. In which order they are going to settle the dues? First, they are going to settle the dues for asset banks na ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. Along with banks money, employees, if they owe some money to the employees, that will be given. And last, if they owe some money to the government, that will be given. And last to last, shareholders, if there are any shareholders, for them money will be given. So dues salana, it will be given in an order. First, it will be given for ARC. Second, employees. Third, for banks. Fourth, for government. Fifth, for shareholders. In this order, they are going to settle. Who is going to settle? ARC, right? Next, asset quality review. See, Asset andre, you know what is an asset? Asti. Other quality, what is the quality? Is it a good asset or a bad asset? That reviewing that is called asset quality review. So it is done by, see what the banks were going to do it. Actually, RBI is forcing the banks to do asset quality review. Why is it forcing the banks to do asset quality review? One, reluctance to classify. See what happens. The banks are giving money to the companies. Companies, they are going to give money. These companies are failing to repay. Some companies. They have to classify it, right? Andre DA1, DA2, SSM, substandard asset, they have to classify, right? First SMA, SSA, DA1, DA2, DA3, they have to classify. But banks are not doing that. They are instead pumping more money into loss-making assets. Why? Adenaru DA1 anta classify adre, they have to set aside their own money alla. I told you, right? Provisioning should be done. So they are not classifying. Because they classify, they have to set aside their own money. So they are not classifying. Instead, they are pumping more money to make the company profitable. So adikke RBI said you have to do the asset quality review. That is one. And also evergreening or window dressing. Evergreening andre, to make that loan look good forever. Window dressing andre, just ಒಳಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕೊಳ್ತೋಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ paint ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. Inside it is gone, rotten. Outside they will go and paint the asset that it is good by pumping more money. So to avoid that, asset quality review is done. AQR, right? Next, apart from that, bank weakening. If they don't do the asset quality review, it is going to lead to weakening of the bank. Alva. Banks will weaken progressively. For how many days can they pump in the money to that bad company? Not for long, right? It is going to collapse today or tomorrow. So bank weakening agutte, and also special inspection has to be done. RBI carries out the special inspection of banks to look into whether they are doing the asset quality review or not, right? This is the concept of asset quality review. Next, prompt corrective action. What is prompt corrective action? See, there is bad loan. Company is not paying the loan. In order to correct that mistake, banks have to, apart from asset quality review, they have to undertake prompt corrective action. They have to correct that mistake. That is called prompt corrective action, PCA, right? So, prompt corrective action, what they have to do? They have to first gauge the risk of asset quality. If there is an asset, what is the risk? Will they are going to repay, or should we overtake the asset? So first, prompt corrective action, they have to undertake the risk. What is the risk of the asset? Next, they are going to see that whether that asset is going to make any profit. Asset, prompt corrective action, first is risk will be assessed. What is the risk of the asset? Then they are going to assess whether there can be any profit from the asset. Prompt corrective action. So the corrective action will be taken in such a way that the asset will start making profit. That can also be done, right? Then what are the restrictions? So yaradru prompt corrective action. Suppose prompt corrective actions alli first bank the asset the risk na nodtare, then whether bank is making profit anta nodtare. If that is not done, there will be lot of restrictions imposed on the bank. What are the restrictions that are imposed? First, the banks cannot expand. Branches na expand madakagala. You have lost money already by giving bad loans. So you cannot expand your branches. Then dividend payment, shareholders ittaralla, the shareholders in the bank. Aurge there is no dividend payment. Profit alli dividend kodangilla. That is the second condition. Then you should not lend any money. Matte sala kodagila yargu, or you can give only this much lending. That is under PCA, prompt correcting action. That will be the condition imposed by whom? RBI upon the banks. RBI upon the bank. And they are going to carry out frequent audits. Auditing will be done of the loss making bank. Punjab National, all these banks which went into loss, Maharashtra Bank and all those banks, right? Then there they can bring in new management to the banks. Old management has caused the bank to go into losses. So they will bring new management in order to make the bank profitable. New management will be bought, or else they can supersede the bank or supersede the board members. Board members, OC, they can take over. Bank can be taken over by RBI. They can give it to SBI or something. S-Bank issue had happened now, last year. Supersede, okay. That is one thing. So, illi prompt corrective action is not applicable on cooperative bank and NBFC. This point is important. No, prompt corrective action is not applicable to cooperative banks and NBFCs, right? So this is all about prompt corrective action. Okay. Next you have safety of banks and Basel norms. Where is this Basel? Basel is in Switzerland. It's a place in Switzerland. Okay. So, safety of banks and Basel norms. One, what is Basel norms? What is Basel norms? See, 2008, not only in 2008, not only in 2008, so safety of banks and Basel norms. These banks give money and lose money. So in order to prevent the banks from doing that, we have to ensure that banks are safe. How do we ensure that banks are safe? By following the Basel norms. Basel norms. So what is Basel norms? So what does the banks do? First, we have to take from starting. Banks carry out lending, right? They are going to lend resources, lend the loans to the public. So adralli there will be lot of risk. Market risk will be there, capital risk will be there, operational risk will be there. All these risks I am going to discuss. So there are lot of risk in running a bank. So in order to minimize the risk, we have to practice prudential practices or good practices we have to follow. Prudential practices, right? Prudent practices. So, in order to follow prudent practices, we have to take up lot of stress test. Stress test. See, what is stress test? So, did you understand risk and prudential practices, everything? Okay. Stress test. Stress test means there is no actual stress test. Bank is running good. Just like mock drill. This fire department, even though there is no fire, they will conduct mock drills, right? As if there is a fire. So similarly, stress test will be taken upon the banks. There will be certain conditions, and then suddenly stock market collapses. Suddenly there is a war. Suddenly there is famine. Suddenly there is defrauding of the bank. All these stresses will be imposed on the bank and artificially, simulation, just like computer simulation. And how is the bank going to respond? How is that particular bank is going to respond under the stress test will be carried out, will be done. Stress test. In order to improvise the functioning of the banking. So stress test, it is going to assess the risk. Assess the risk, capital risk, operational risk and many other risks. Okay. Then So I told you market risk, credit market. So assessing the risk from market. Market ali stock market collapses, or somebody defrauds, or there is a cyclone, disaster. So many things. What is the result of that on the functioning of the bank? That is the first risk. Then credit risk. Credit risk andra, the money is given to public, they are not going to repay. That is credit risk. That is the second thing. Then also liquidity risk. Liquidity, bank doesn't have sufficient liquidity. Very minimum liquidity is there. That is also a risk. All these risks will be considered by Basel norms. Also, it is going to tell to the banks, also it is going to direct the banks how to manage the market risk, how to manage the credit risk, how to manage liquidity risk. This Basel norms is going to tell it. So it is going to do what? What is the intention? What is the aim of Basel norms? Andre, first is growth. By implementing the Basel norms, you are focusing on growth. Growth of the banking sector, growth of the economy. That is first thing. And also, see, these are actually these are not the aims. These are actually the stresses. I told you, stress test. Suddenly growth decreases. COVID. Suddenly growth decreases. How does the bank react? Suddenly there is a stock market collapse. How does the bank react? Suddenly there is rupee exchange rate. Suddenly some 75 rupees, it is going to fall to 95 rupees. How is the bank going to react? And also inflation. Suddenly the price of the goods will increase. How is the bank going to react? So these are the stress. So in order to tackle the stress, what should be done? What should be done by the banks? First is, they should set aside a capital. Certain bandwala, certain capital, they have to keep safe. So that any stress will happen, we are going to handle. That is the first thing. Next, prudential norms. Prudential norms. I told you what is prudential norms already. One of the prudential norms is income recognition. Andre, only people who have proper income, they should be given the loan. Prudential norm. That is the first prudential norm. Then asset classification. Whether it is a standard asset, whether it is a substandard asset, whether the property is legal or illegal. All these assets should be classified. That is second prudential norm. And then the third prudential norm is, suppose by chance NPA happens, non-performing asset, the bank, the loan will go loss. It will become a non-performing asset. Then what should be done? Provisioning should be done. That is also a prudential norm. Then capital adequacy norms. Capital adequacy. And I told you it is similar to keeping aside capital. Some capital should be set aside. Capital adequacy norms. CAN. Some capital should be set aside for safety of the operation of the bank, so that bank doesn't collapse, bank doesn't go bankrupt. Bank diwali dogde capital na ettitirbeku. That is capital. So what are the benefits? Benefits of this? One is, some crisis like 2008 financial crisis happens, bank is going to withstand it. Second benefit, public's money will be saved, right? Bank's profitability would be ensured. Economic stability would be ensured. Government borrowing will be safe. Government can borrow money from bank. So all these are the benefits accruing out of the following the Basel norms. Basel norms actually there are 3 norms. It is given by Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, BCBS. Basel Committee on Banking Supervision gives these Basel norms. They have a secretariat in Basel, Switzerland, and also they focus on capital. Capital na Basel andre, just remember this word, capital. Capital to meet obligations, various obligations. So there are many Basel rules. So today we are 2019 March 31st we are completely March 31st 2019. From this date we are completely following Basel 3. We are following the Basel 3 norms from this date. Basel 1 andrenu, it came in 1988. 1988. What is it all about? Minimum capital requirement. That's all. There should be some minimum capital with the bank. That is the Basel norm. Basel norms, very important. So, why capital? Credit risk. Sala kotre, there will be some risk. In order to counter the risk, there should be minimum capital. That is Basel 1. Basel 2 comes in 2004. It speaks about various risks. Market risk, capital risk, operational risk. Enen risk ide, for a bank to operate in the economy. Those risks are spoken about by this, and it gives the remedies to counter that risk. Basel 2 is all about risks. Basel 3. So, this actually 2013 alli 2009-10 alle start aguttide baradu, but implemented from 2013. Why? 2008 crisis aguttalla. Financial crisis in America, Lehman Brothers, subprime lending crisis. After that, they are going to give this Basel 3 norms. So, it takes effect in 2013. India dalli we are completely Basel 3 compliant from 2019 March 31st. It also speaks about capital adequacy. Not only capital adequacy, it speaks about stress test. I told you what is stress test. What is the capital, what is the stress test, okay? Then it focuses on quantity and quality of capital. What is quantity and quality of capital? Quantity means the amount of money, amount of assets. Quality means what is the quality of that asset. See, if you want money from the bank, you would pledge your property, right? Pledge your property. So, how much property is quantity? Whether that property is good or not, whether it is worthy or not, that is quality, right? Clear? Okay. So, this pen, it has this much height, that is the quantity. Whether it is of good material, that is quality, right? So, quantity and quality of capital, adru bage. So, idralli, they give capital adequacy ratio 11.5%, CAR, capital adequacy ratio, also called as capital to risk adequacy ratio, CRAR, erdu onde. It means 11.5% of the capital should be set aside. 11.5% of the capital should be set aside for any risk, right? Okay. Next, we have 3 pillars. Basel 3 and they are going to ask, probably Basel 1 and Basel 2, they are not going to ask. Basel 3, they will ask. See, Basel 3, the first pillar is risks. I told you the risk. What are the risks? We will discuss here. Credit risk, market risk, operational risk. So, Basel 3, first pillar is risk. Second pillar is banking supervision, improving the banking supervision. In order to counter the risk, banking supervision should be increased. In order to counter the risk, banking supervision should be increased. That is the banking supervision. Bank mele haddin kannittirbeku. Or bank should keep birds or eagle eye on the assets. Clear? In order to reduce the risk. Next, requirement for higher disclosure. The third pillar is requirement for higher disclosure. And there is bad asset. Bank knows it. They are not going to tell the government. Because they don't tell it, they have to keep their own capital alva set aside. So they are not going to tell it. So this Basel 3 says you have to keep aside more capital. You have to disclose your capital. Higher disclosure should be there. Requirement for higher disclosure. So these are the 3 pillars of Basel 3. Right? So now we will discuss the risk, 3 risks. One is credit risk. Credit risk is self-explanatory. You give credit, the bank gives credit, it doesn't come back. That is the most important risk actually. So what is the solution for credit risk? Simple. One is Recovery, second is setting aside your own capital. Recover adre olledu, recover agilare, keep your own capital in order to reduce the risk. That is the first thing. Next, market risk. Market risk andre, first is liquidity risk. Market ali liquidity, I told you, liquidity means money supply. When there is no money supply, that is market ali there is no money supply, that is a risk. That is one risk. And also other investment. So market, see, other investment andre no. Not only in money, this banks will invest in property, they will invest in gold, they will invest in shares. So many things they will invest. All that risk will called as market risk. One is liquidity risk, other is gold, property, shares risk is called market risk. Right? So, that will be a risk. Gold price will fluctuate, shares price will fluctuate, property price will fluctuate. So, whatever the risk that is going to come, that is asset risk. Market risk you can say as asset risk as well. Right? So, it is dependent on market forces. Market forces mele the prices is going to vary, that is market risk. Right? Next is operational risk. Operating the bank is not simple, right? Disaster bandi one branch mein collapse or cyber attack agi duddella tagondu hogbidbodu yaradu, right? Disaster, cyber attack, physical attack, there are so many risks operating. Suddenly bank employees may go on strike, which they do every 1 month. So all these are operational risks. All these are operational risks, fraud, cyber attack, strikes, all this. So, Muru risk na it is covered by Basel III, right? Next, capital adequacy norms. I told you CAN. CALE first is capital adequacy ratio. What is the adequacy ratio according to Basel III? 11.5%. If the bank says 100 rupees, 11.5 rupees should be set aside in order to cover various risks. CAR andru vande, CRAR andru vande. Capital to risk assessed ratio, that is CRAR, capital to risk assessed ratio. Next, percentage, yenidu CRAR andre percentage of banks risk weighted credit exposure. I told you no. Credit exposure agidre risk, percentage of banks risk weighted credit exposure. Credit expose agidre adralli certain assets, banks own assets ali we are going to keep aside some money, that is CRAR. So there are sector wise risk. Sector wise risk, infrastructure there might be risk, food sector there might be risk, health sector, COVID there might be risk, disaster, climate wise there might be risk, agriculture might be a risk, market there might be a risk, right? So all these are risks. Sector wise there are so many risks, and also there are some things where is zero risk. What is zero risk? Which are the zero risk loans? When the banks give loans to the government, it is zero risk. And also, you invest in gold, that is also zero risk. Gold price, gold is always gold. So those are zero risk lending, right? Okay. Next. So capital adequacy, why? Protect depositors and promote stability. Capital adequacy is to protect depositors. Depositors andre navu, and to promote economic stability, right? So this is the condition. Next, you have CAR earlier was 9%, today it is 11.5% according to Basel III, right? Counter cyclical capital buffer. This concept is important. Counter cyclical capital buffer. What is counter cyclical capital buffer? See, business moves in cycles. Recession, depression, economic boom, growth. So when it is in recession, it is called cycle has gone down. I'm going to draw it. So this is boom, this is growth, this is recession, this is depression. Slowdown, also called slowdown, recession. Illi cycle is down. Illi what they do, they are going to counter cyclical capital buffer. When there is the cycle is down, they are going to keep some capital buffer. Some buffer would be kept aside. Buffer andre no. Safety ge you are going to, your helmet is a buffer, right? You meet with an accident, it will act as a cushion. Buffer means cushioning against risk. So when the cycle is down, capital buffer will be set aside, right? So that is counter cyclical capital buffer. When the cycle is down, this capital will be put in and the cycle will go up, right? So this is all about counter cyclical capital buffer. Next, AT1 bonds. Additional tier 1 bonds. Additional tier 1 bonds. Tier 1 bonds andrenu? See, additional tier 1 bonds. Tier 1, you see, when it comes to bank, there are many tiers of capital. Tier 1 capital, Tier 2 capital, Tier 3 capital. Tier 1 capital andre core capital. Banks functioning bekago capital is called Tier 1 capital. You just know about that. That is enough. So, AT1 andre additional Tier 1 bonds. Tier 1 bonds andre, they are the core bonds. Banking the core sector performance mele depend agiro bonds are called Tier 1 bonds. These bonds are unsecured. Yavade security iralla. It is not dependent on any asset, right? And it pays high interest because there is no asset, there is no collateral. It is going to pay high interest bearing and it is subordinated. It is a subordinated debt. Subordinated andrenu? See, one is banks the actual capital. Actual capital, bank aliro hana. This is the main asset. This AT1 bonds are subordinated assets. That is, they are second level assets. Subordinated and idike there is no expiry date. AT1 bonds, they are going to ask directly AT1 bonds, additional Tier 1 bonds. So you should just know what it is. High interest bearing, it is unsecured, it is subordinated. It is not the main capital, it is a second level capital of the bank and it doesn't have any expiry date. E-bonds, there is no expiry date. It is lifelong and these are quasi-equity instruments. Quasi-equity instruments. What is quasi-equity instrument? See, these bonds, after some years, they can be converted into equity or they themselves can act as a equity. You hold this bond. See, you take bond from the bank, AT1 bonds, additional Tier 1 bonds. So this, you act like, it acts like a equity and you act like a owner of the bank. Some percentage of the equity in the bank is with you because you own the bond. So it is quasi-equity, but it is not complete equity. Quasi. Why quasi? Not complete andre. Complete equity idre share price jasti agutte bidre bidutte. Quasi equity andre it is fixed. That is one thing. Then this AT1 bonds which bank issues are regulated by RBI. So it is a minor concept. Jasti tale kedsಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಬೇಡ. You just know these points, more than sufficient. Next you have India and CAR. India dalli what is the capital adequacy ratio? What is the capital adequacy ratio in India? See, the capital adequacy ratio in India is 11.5%. It is 11.5%. It is as per Basel 3. So there is capital conservation buffer. Capital conservation buffer. Andre, in order to see buffer, I told you what is buffer? Conservation. In order to conserve the capital of the bank, this much money we have to keep aside. So this is the concept. So this concept you should know. Capital conservation buffer. CAR is a capital conservation buffer, 11.5%. So what are the challenges in India? One is non-performing assets. Assets which are non-performing. Second is low profits. Banking sector, there is low profit, very less profit, and also no lender. If the banks want loans for themselves, nobody is going to give the bank. There is no lending. Banks cannot mobilize the capital. Banks do not have any lender, that is, the no lender concept, right? So these are the challenges for banks in India. Next, recapitalization. Recapitalization. I told you what is recapitalization. Bank has certain capital, they are going to lose the capital by giving it to some ineligible person. Government is going to pump in capital again. That is recapitalization. So Indra Dhanush scheme 2015 speaks about this recapitalization. How recapitalization will be done? See, this concept is important. First, what they do, government issues bonds, recap bonds anta issue madutte. So what these people, banks do andre, they are going to buy the bonds. Recapitalization bonds, they are going to buy. Who? Banks. By buying the bonds, government is going to get money, right? Recap bonds. See, here is government, here is bank. This is going to give them bonds, recapitalization bonds. These banks will buy the recap bonds. So banks, in order to buy the bonds, they have to give money to government, right? So government will get the money. So in turn, this money, what government does? It invests in the share. Bank shares will invest madutte. Bank share will invest madadaga, share price will go up. Everybody will start taking bank shares because government has invested. When government invests in a bank, it increases the confidence in the market. The share price will go up. When share price go up, profit of the banks will increase. Not only profit here, but also what? E bonds iruttala, bonds tagondiruttala. These bonds will also get interest. They pay interest because they have bought the bond. Government will pay them interest. So illu bank ದುಡ್ಡು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲೂ ದುಡ್ಡು ಬರುತ್ತೆ. What they do? Later they are going to sell the this shares idiyalla, which government has bought. They are going to take the shares back. So likewise, it will benefit the bank also, government also. So this is how recapitalization will be done. It is a win-win situation antare. Bank will also benefit, government will also benefit. That is the so this is the equity. So this is the concept, recapitalization andre. Whereas illi equity and debt capital ratio, how recapitalization will be done andre, equity, bank al equity share iruttalla adu plus debt andre bonds. Idrad ratio irutte. Debt capital ratio. When, see, you just know this much, recapitalization would be done by readjusting equity and debt capital ratio. Readjusting the equity and debt capital ratio. Equity will increase, debt will decrease. Equity will increase, debt will decrease by recapitalization. When the government adjusts this equity and debt capital, then recapitalization will take place. So it is changing of this ratio. Equity andre share appa innenilla. You know, right? Equity will increase. Why? Government is going to buy the shares. Equity will increase. Debt will decrease automatically because it is making profit. The banks are making profit. So the debt is going to reduce. So when this ratio changes, it is the recapitalization. Recapitalization bonds took by the PSCs. Advantages. What are the advantages of the recapitalization bonds? One is no taxing. See, recapitalization bond, what are the advantages? I'll tell you. See, suppose government needs money. Government needs money. So government will take it from the market. They are going to borrow it from the market, right? So recapitalization bonds alli, they are not borrowing from, so market will borrow madutte or it is going to tax the people. More taxation. So recapitalization bond na sell madadre, banks are giving money to the government. So there is no taxation on public. Public will be saved. That is one advantage, right? The second advantage is no crowding out. No crowding out. When the government wants money, they are going to take the money from market, I told you. So it leads to less money in the market. So that less money is called crowding out. I told you that other day. Crowding out of investment by government. So crowding out agala because they are getting the money from banks. That is the second concept. Then this selling of bonds by government, it is safe investment. I mean the banks buying government bonds is safe investment because government is never going to default. The safe investment will be there. Disadvantages. Disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? Andre? Moral hazard. Moral hazard. What is moral hazard? See, first of all, these banks, why did they give loan to ineligible people? So it will ensure that they are going to give bad loans again and again. Government is going to recapitalize them again and again. So it leads to moral hazard. Morality, it is wrong, anta they are going to say. So also, fiscal deficit will reduce. Fiscal deficit will reduce. Fiscal deficit, I told the other day, fiscal deficit reduce another in order to fill the fiscal deficit gap. Fiscal deficit gap idiyala, a gap na fill madake, the government is going to borrow. I mean via selling these bonds. So fiscal deficit, it is going to help. Next you have Bank of International Settlement. Bank of International Settlement. So this is a bank for central banks. See, we all invest money in banks. All these banks invest money in the Reserve Bank. I mean keep the money in the International Bank, BIS. So it is a bank for central banks, for all the country's central banks. It ensures services. It gives out banking services, lending, all those things, deposit, everything will be carried out, but only for central banks. We cannot go and open account in BIS, right? Individuals. So and also it is based in Basel, Switzerland. This bank is also there in Switzerland. Now the concept of write-off, write-down and haircut. Write-off, write-down and haircut. The banks are taking, banks are giving money to some public, they are not going to repay. So repay. So write down andre, suppose there is 10 crore loan, the bank will, so you cannot repay the entire 10 crore. So what you write down, what the bank is going to do, they are going to ask, you just pay 6 crore. That is write down. Write off, andre, this entire 10 crore will be given off. You don't pay anything. Write off, write down. So haircut, andre, first see both of the things are called haircut. Cutting the loans. So haircut ali you have two concepts. One is write down and another is write off. So did you understand what is write off and write down? Yes. Okay. Next, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2006. Very, very important. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. See, before this IBC code, there was SARFAESI Act. SARFAESI Act ittu, ARC companies were there. ARC companies, SARFAESI Act, and also there were many legal provisions. Courts, they used to go and take the money. I mean, take the warrant against defaulters and recover the money. So the process was very complicated. Process was very complicated and money could not be easily recovered. So banks were going into lot of losses. Banks were going into lot of losses and SARFAESI Act, all these acts were failing. So because of that reason, so munche there was no effective law. Rather there were multiple laws, none of which was effective. So avaglene they bring in this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. So earlier there were no desired results. This is the background about IBC 2016. So highlights of IBC, highlights. First is insolvency. It is going to mean, it gives the meaning of insolvency. Insolvency means some person has taken the money from bank, he is not able to repay. That person is insolvent. He is not able to repay the loan. That is the meaning of insolvency. Bankruptcy andre eno? He doesn't have any money at all. He has gone Diwali. That is bankruptcy. Insolvency, this is inability to pay loan. Bankruptcy is complete loss. So this is the meaning of insolvency and bankruptcy given by the IBC code. So it also ensures insolvency professionals. Insolvency professionals. What is insolvency professionals? IP. So IP is what happens? See, some company has defaulted. They are not giving loans back. So avaga this what they do, this debt recovery tribunal anta barutte or National Company Law Tribunal. What they do, they are going to appoint insolvency professionals. These are like asset managers. These people, what they do, they take earlier ARC tagonta ittalla. Instead of that, insolvency professionals, they are going to take that loan and make it profitable or sell it and give the money to the bank. So insolvency professionals will be appointed, and also there will be insolvency professional agencies. So these insolvency professionals will be enrolled with insolvency professional agencies. Agencies will be registered with RBI. Yes. So this is given by the IBC code. And also information utilities. Information utilities. Andre, in the entire India, how much, who has taken the loan, who has defrauded the loan, what is its credit, CIBIL score anta baruttalla. CIBIL score means whether you are eligible for loan. So whether this person is eligible for loan, all the information will be maintained in this data utility. Data will be put in this information utility. And also there is adjudicating authorities. What is adjudicating authority? Andre, suppose a company goes into losses, so who will decide? It is adjudicating authority. Whether that company should be dissolved, whether it should be sold. So it will be decided by adjudicating. There are two adjudicating authorities. Suppose individual, I am going to defraud or make losses to the bank. The case will go to debt recovery tribunal. Debt recovery tribunal is going to take the money from me. Or else if a company defrauds, company mosa madadre, it will go to National Company Law Tribunal. So there are two adjudicating authorities mentioned in this. What they do, adjudicating authorities, first they are going to initiate the process. Insolvency process they are going to initiate in first place. When the asset become non-performing asset, they are going to initiate the process. They will appoint the insolvency professional. Insolvency professional na appoint madtare, and also they are going to approve the insolvency plan. This insolvency professional, what they do, he will give a plan, proper plan. A company which has defrauded, how to make this company or revive this company, how to recover money from the company. This insolvency professional is going to give a plan, and that plan will be approved by these adjudicating authorities, right? And also this resolutions professionals works under committee of creditors. What is a committee of creditor? See, earlier before the IBC, only the banks could initiate the SARFAESI Act. Andre, some company will cheat the bank matra insolvency, andre was able to take over the loan. Take over the property, collateral. Now, not only the banks, creditors, and who are the creditors? See, there is suppose let's say there is a TV company. They on credit, they would have taken some wires from some company. They can also initiate the, not only bank, creditors, yaar sala kotirtare, everybody can initiate the insolvency proceedings. Not only them, employees employees can also initiate the insolvency proceedings, right? So these are the who can, so all of them, yaar sala kotirtare, there will be a committee of creditors. So this person, insolvency professional, will work under the directions of Committee of Creditors. Committee of Creditors ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಪ್ರಕಾರ is going to work and revive the company. Clear? Okay. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ there is a Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board. IBBI, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India anta they have formed, and it is a quasi judicial body. Quasi judicial ಅಂದ್ರೆ it is not a complete judicial body, half judicial and half executive. Executive, half of them will be appointed by government, half of them will be judicial, right? Quasi judicial body. Procedure and process. What is the procedure and process of insolvency? First, insolvency idadmele, insolvency there is a minimum amount. For individual it is 1000 rupees. 1000 rupees male mosa madidre insolvency proceedings can be started. For companies it is 1 lakh. Companies get 1 lakh minimum amount to start the IBC, insolvency code, insolvency proceedings. Initiation yaar madbodu? Creditor or anybody. I told you, anybody who has given, who is a stakeholder. Next, it goes to committee stage. It goes to committee stage. Which committee? Committee of Creditors. Committee hogutte. There, see, within 180 days the loan has to be recovered. Within 180 days, the timing for recovery of loan is 180 days. So insolvency professional on plan kodtane, that is going to go to the committee stage. They are going to approve the plan and the company assets will be liquidated. Liquidated andre haraj hagtarella. Liquidate ಮಾಡಿ, they are going to take money from that company and give the bank. They will also, so illi waterfall, liquidation, company haraj hagtare, waterfall andre who will be given money first? First, the money will be given to insolvency professional. You insolvency plan ella maadi kotirtanalla. So the first money will be given to insolvency professional and insolvency professional agency. Second, it will be given to the banks. Third, it will be for employees. Yes. Fourth, for government. Fifth, for preferred stockholders. Sixth, for normal stockholders, normal shareholders. ಈ ತರ ವಾಟರ್ಫಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಸೆಟಲ್ ದ ಮನಿ. ಏನ್ ದುಡ್ಡು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಈ ತರ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಆ ತರ ವಾಟರ್ಫಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಲ್, ರೈಟ್? ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, ಸಿಗ್ನಿಫಿಕೆನ್ಸ್. ವಿಲ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಂಡ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಟುಡೇ. Significance. Significance of Insolvency Bankruptcy Code. What is the significance? One is creditor is in control. ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಸಾಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ, everybody can control the company. Everybody, whoever has given the debt, they can control the company. That is the first significance. And there is easy exit route. Banks can immediately give the loan to the ARC. ARC company loan kotputtu, they can exit from it. So easy exit route for the banks, right? Also easy exit route for the defaulting company. Yaar mosa madirtare, they can also exit from the company just by selling the company, right? That is one thing. Speed, within 180 days everything will be done. Money would be recovered. That is the third thing. Next, ease, it will increase the ease of doing business, right? Ease of doing business will be increased, right? And also it will reduce the bad loans. It is going to reduce the bad loans. Bad loans ಏನಿದೆ, that will be reduced. Bad loans ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? Loans which are not recovered are bad loans, right? Then most significant advantage is it is a single code. Single code. There are no multiple codes. There is only one code for recovering the money. Tomorrow we will discuss the advantages of the IBC and complete the banking chapter, right? So please make good use of these free classes, and if you have any doubts you can put it in the comment box, and also you can reach us on our Telegram channel, VHS Education Forum, and tomorrow we will meet again. Take care of your health. Jai Hind. Namaste.